Hello? Hi, sweetie. It's so nice to hear your voice. I have to admit, I had a hell of a time finding a new phone number for everyone out there. So, how are you all doing? Linda purred, trying not to breathe and trying to hide the fear and longing she was actually feeling. Stacy hesitated and decided to reassure herself. I'm sorry, who is this? For heaven's sake, Stacy. It's your mother! I'm sorry I didn't call sooner, but damn it. I expected you to at least be able to recognize the voice of the mother who loved and raised you for 17 plus years, Linda said, now very upset. Stacy smiled slightly. She was really sure it was her mom calling, but as usual, she decided to be extra cautious. Caution had the advantage of giving her absent mom an emotional kick in the head without being overtly nasty. Oh, hey, Mom. You caught me off guard and I was just being, cautious. I didn't want to get involved with some stalker. Stacy paused again and decided to object to her mom's loved and raised you for 17 plus years remark. She kept her cool but didn't refuse the polite barb. Mom, I don't think the last 3 years can be categorized as parenting or love. I was almost 14 when you left us, and this is the first word from you in over 3 years. Now I'm 17, and it's been a long time since I felt your motherly love. Linda sighed heavily. I'm sorry, Stacy. It's just that things were so complicated at the time. I just felt like I had to leave. But enough about that! I really just called to see how you were doing, and maybe talk to your sister and brother if they're around. I plan to be much more available to you now that things have settled down. Hopefully we can get things going again, and you can take advantage of being the child of a well-off mother now that Frank and I are married. There's so much I can do for you and Rachel and Josh. Our life is so much better than what it was when I was with your father. Don't get me wrong, your father is a good man, but he just can't provide the life benefits that Frank does. I'm very spoiled now and I love it. Now I want to show you children real life. The way it should be. In the meantime, I can make up for the years we've all lived, given your father's meager income, and yes, perhaps make up for my sudden departure. By this point, Stacy was beyond furious. She loved her father, Ed Mercer, very much. She also respected his responsibility and the heartache he experienced when Linda left, forcing him to become a single parent and raise 2 teenage daughters and a wild 20-year-old son. She was also very proud of the way he turned their lives around after Mom left. Linda had cleaned out the bank accounts before she left, so the financial situation was suddenly much worse than Stacy had ever remembered. At the age of 14, Stacy took on the role of homemaker to help the family survive. Together they survived, but it was a struggle for more than 8 months. Then things got better when her father made some drastic changes, and now life is great. It would have been easy for Stacy to simply pounce on the perpetrator of much of the misery that had defined the 14th year of her life. Her famous temper was at the ready, in the background, like a tiger on a light leash, just waiting for a weakness and an opportunity to strike. Stacy suddenly felt a surge of absolute calm and realized what she had to do, and it was great. If she lashed out at her, her mother would undoubtedly hang up on her and Stacy might never see or hear from her again. It wouldn't do anyone any good, and she really wanted to keep her relationship with her mother despite all her nonsense. Stacy enjoyed the calm that enveloped her as she decided how to proceed. She would make her point, rub her mother's nose in the slime of her mistakes, and in doing so preserve the chance of a continued relationship for her, her siblings, and her mother. Stacy smiled broadly and thought, Stacy girl, you may have just learned a huge life lesson. Mom! You won't believe how hot I am. Hold on, I'm about to take a picture on my cell phone camera and send it to you. Don't hang up! Stacy stood in front of the full-length mirror in her bedroom, with plenty of light coming through the window. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of June, so the sun was coming in strongly through the west-facing window. She smiled radiantly, turning slightly sideways to show off her styled strawberry blonde hair, gathered on her head in an elegant style. She was wearing a full-length lavender evening gown, elegant but fitting her very feminine figure, showing her transformation into a full woman. The dress was complemented by long white gloves that hugged her arms just above the elbows. She took 2 pictures, chose the best one, and quickly sent the picture to her mother's cell phone. Did it work? What do you think? There was a long pause while Linda considered and digested the implications of 3 years in the life of a blossoming young woman. Oh my goodness. Oh, Stacy. You're beautiful. You, I have no words. Linda said it in something of a whisper, suppressing the lump in her throat that was trying to choke her. Oh, Stacy, I've missed so much. You've grown so much. Oh shit, what have I done? Stacy ignored her mother's musings and continued. You think it's something? Wait until you see Rachel. Stacy slipped across the hall to her sister's room and pushed open the door where her 14-year-old sister was doing a last-minute, elegant updo of her long, thick, honey-brown hair. Rachel's hair was also gathered on her head in several ringlets that framed her face. Her large gray-blue doe eyes and soft facial features made everyone stop and stare at her. Her face was strikingly beautiful. She was wearing an evening gown, delicately elegant, but hiding her charms much better than her older, more mature sister's dress. Hey, Rach. Strike a pose. Mom's on the phone, and I'm going to send her a picture of you. Rachel was assisted by a woman in her 30s, also dressed in an evening gown that was meant to impress. The woman had a regal beauty that constantly turned heads wherever she appeared. The woman started to move away from the picture frame when Stacy intervened. No, Janice. Stay where you are. I want you in the picture too. Rachel was still a little stunned, but finally rolled her eyes and, covering her mouth with her hands, yelled into the phone. Hi, Mom! I can't talk right now, but let's get in touch sometime later. Stacy took a few pictures, chose the best one, and sent it on its way. After a pause, Stacy put the phone to her ear and said, I bet you don't recognize Rachel? Mom, Rachel even has breasts! Rachel blushed and screamed, Stacy, you jerk! Shut up! But a shy smile appeared on her face as the other two women in the room giggled at her embarrassment. Stacy turned her attention back to the phone. So what do you think, Mom? Linda was confused. I'm stunned, honey. Just stunned. You've both grown so much and you're both so beautiful. I'm so proud of you. How I wish I could have been there with you. Linda pulled the phone away from her ear every now and then to look at the pictures of her children, whom she now missed more than anything else in the world. Her heart ached with regret and longing. Then, through tear-filled eyes, the details of the photos began to emerge. Why are you both dressed up like that? You can't both be going to the ball, can you? Stacy had effectively caught her mom's eye and was now ready to really start rubbing her nose. No, Mom. This is even cooler than that. Remember the annual party that you always went crazy about, but that you and Dad were never invited to? You know, Sedgwick McTaggart, welcome to the summer party. Linda immediately replied, Of course I remember. It was always the social event of the year. Heck, I'd give my teeth to get into that reception. Only the most powerful and beautiful people in the entire state were invited there. I so wanted to be able to dress up in formal dress and mingle with the social elite. I would have loved it so much, Linda sighed, and then quickly snapped out of her imaginary vision. Oh my goodness, you and Rachel got jobs as hostesses or waitresses for that party? Wow, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you two. To think my daughters will be there among beautiful people. I'm jealous, Linda muttered breathlessly. No, Mom, we're not waiters. We are the invited guests. What's more, we're going to sit at the head table because Daddy is the guest of honor. It's a surprise for him, but Daddy will be roasted too. Isn't that cool? I'll even be one of the roasters! I'm so nervous, but I'm also so excited. Linda was stunned. What, you're kidding, right? You have to be kidding. Why would a lowly cost containment clerk be invited to Welcome to Summer, much less as the guest of honor? That just doesn't happen in real life. You're lying to me, aren't you? Yes, of course, Mom. Rachel and I get dressed up every day just so you call so we can pull your chain. Don't get me wrong, Mom. A lot has changed since you left us. We were in a lot of pain, no, we were all devastated. But Daddy brought us all together, even Josh, and somehow made a new life for us. Maybe I should fill you in on what's happened since you left us. It needs to be done quickly because the limo should be back with Fauna and Josh in about 15 minutes, and then we'll have to leave. Stacy took a deep breath to suppress her anger before she began the story of their life after Mom. Dad was pretty much destroyed when he found out you were doing it with some old fart in his bed. You kind of disappeared right after he found out about it and confronted you, so I guess you were already planning on leaving, but the date just got pushed back a bit. Linda interrupted Stacy to whisper, I'm sorry, Stacy. I didn't realize you were aware of what happened between me and your dad, but yes, after your dad found out, I felt I had to leave. What was the point of staying? My God, he even had pictures of us. Frank and I decided to leave town and go to his apartment in Manhattan, where we've lived ever since. I'm sorry your dad decided to tell you about what happened. I think it was very low to involve you kids. Horse shit, Mom! It's just pure horse shit! Stacy tried to get her growing temper under control. She took a deep breath and continued. Daddy didn't tell us. I'm the one who told him. Who do you think took the pictures? Shit! Rachel and I got home and everything was quiet except for the strange noises coming from your bedroom. I told Rachel to wait downstairs and I quietly went upstairs to check. When I saw what you were doing, I grabbed your cell phone and took some pictures and sent them to Dad. Rachel and I then left and went to a friend's house. By the time Rachel and I got home, you had locked yourself in your bedroom and wouldn't come out, but we could hear you crying. The next morning you were gone. The last thing I remember of my loving mother is her lying on her back under some old man in my father's bedroom. Tell me I didn't need therapy to get those images out of my head. I'm glad you at least covered your bodies, or I'd probably still be in therapy right now. I can't believe it was you who betrayed me, Stacy. How could you do that? I don't think this is the right time or place to exchange jabs about betrayal, Mom. That would be a very uneven duel, don't you think? I'll take my fire hose against your gun any day, and we won't even talk about Rach and Josh's stuff. So do you want to repeat the history of the last 3 years or not? Stacy marveled at her own composure and how she handled the situation. The thought flashed through her mind that she had really grown and matured over the past few years. At that moment, Linda realized that in order to have any kind of relationship with her children, she would have to go through hell of responsibility for her actions and their outcome. This was not going to be an easy task. A few gifts and trips would not automatically make things right. Her children had to come to terms and adjust to life without her. She wanted to know how they coped, but to do that, she needed to know what they thought of her decisions and choices. Did they all really hate her? There was no time to run now. If she backed down now, she would likely lose them, possibly forever. But if she wanted to rebuild the relationship, she would have to accept their feelings and feel their fire. Is she ready for that? Was it all worth the pain she knew would come later? Linda pulled herself together. Her voice was soft and remorseful. Yes, Stacy, you're absolutely right. I suppose we will have to discuss these issues someday, but right now we need to get back to reasonable communication. I've been calling to re-establish contact with the children, and that would be a good first step. So let me find out how your life has turned out since I left. Mom, you just wouldn't believe it. It's like something out of a story, even a fairy tale. Anyway, Dad got discouraged for a few months, and it was really bad. A lot of times Rachel and I would come home from school, and I'd make her stay outside while I'd go into the house myself and check to see if Dad was dead or something. Every time the phone would ring, I would jump up thinking it was the police or the hospital or something. I told Josh that he had to step up and quit drinking and partying because I couldn't be the only one trying to hang on. He tried, I think, but it didn't help him much. Eventually, Dad started reading books on how to get over breakups and grief and all that. A lot of nights he'd just lock himself in his bedroom and we'd hear the clicking of keys on the computer. He was writing and I think that helped him a lot. Remember when he got overweight? So, one day he started getting up early to run and even got a treadmill and exercise machine and started using them. I thought he was trying to get himself to start living again. Stacy paused and thought for a moment, then said, I know you probably don't want to know all this stuff about Dad, but it's really important in the overall scheme of things. So I apologize if it's not what you wanted to hear about. By the way, he looks really hot right now. No, it's okay, honey. I really need to know about this. But thank you for caring about me, and I can understand that. I want to know how you, Rachel, and Josh are doing mostly. Well, with Rachel, it's simple. She just kind of got sucked into a shell and stayed there for quite a while. Now she's pretty much come around, and you wouldn't believe how well she's doing. A lot of that has to do with Janice. She and Rachel have really hit it off. Linda looked at the picture on her phone again and paid particular attention to the woman helping Rachel pack. So, who's Janice? Oh, I'm sorry, Mom. Janice is Daddy's girlfriend. Isn't she gorgeous? And she's so cute. She's a former swimsuit model and is still modeling clothes. She really helped Rachel come out of her shell and is now helping Rachel get started in the modeling world. Oh, Mom! You should get a copy of last month's Teen Fashion World magazine. Rachel is on the cover and she looks absolutely amazing. She's really becoming an in-demand model. What? How? When did all this happen? Your dad slept with a girl half his age and now she's selling your sister to photographers. If I find out she's taking cheesecake pictures, I'll press charges against Dad and Janet or whatever her name is. Linda was close to choking up. Stacy waited to calm the situation down a bit, while realizing where she had probably inherited her temper from, and then spoke very quietly. Mom, Dad, and Janice really care and scrutinize any modeling work Rachel and I do. At least one of them is present at every shoot. They insist that the photographer sign an ironclad contract with Dad, and no picture is taken without Dad's approval and permission. Do you really think Daddy would allow any of us anything even close to resembling cheesecake? He won't even let her take a picture in a bathing suit. As for Daddy's girlfriend, her name is Janice and she's 34 years old, so there's 11 years difference between her and Daddy. That's a lot less than you and Frankie. Who's what? 100? I don't know if they'll ever get married, but they're cute together and she helps him a lot. She even says nice things about him from time to time, so he seems pretty happy. Happier than I've ever seen him, actually. Frank is only 66 years to my 43, Stacy, Linda hastily interjected. I'm just not sure modeling is a good choice for Rachel. I certainly wouldn't allow it. She needs to get into something more worthy. Stacy bit her tongue to keep from saying something like, decent? How do you abandon your family to become jewelry for a 66-year-old rich man's hand? So she continued on, ignoring the interrupted conversation. The modeling career has done a lot of good for Rachel, Mom. She's not so shy anymore. She now holds herself with a confidence and poise she never had before. She finally knows who she is, what she can accomplish, and what she's good at. She even directs or suggests themed poses for some of her shoots. Let's face it, Mom, Rachel was never good academically and always considered herself a failure because she thought she had a bleak future. Now, however, she can become a world-class model before she even graduates high school and have the kind of bank account that even you would be proud of. Before you ask, yes, I did say that I model too, but I'm not as passionate about it. Rach and I do fashion shoots together where I act as an extra to accentuate her, or wear different patterns or colors of the outfit we are showing. The best part is that Rach and I have become very close because we help each other and work together. I also get paid pretty well, so I save a lot of money for college. School is still my thing, so I'm doing well. I take a few extra classes every semester so I can graduate early and get into college. I still maintain an A average, but this year I'm a little worried about chemistry. It's a difficult subject, but I need it if I want to get into veterinary school. Oh, Mom, you're not going to believe this. Rach and I keep the outfits we model, so I have a whole closet now. Can you believe it? I'm actually one of the best dressed in the class, not Miss Geekazoid. Many of the too cool for you girls in my class ask me for fashion advice, and some have even asked for my autograph. Isn't that kind of perverted? I'm almost popular. The best part is that guys are starting to pay attention to me, Stacy giggled. All of this was very disturbing to Linda, who had always struggled to reach some undefined level in society. She had left her family to gain acceptance in society, and it seemed that most of her family members had reached great heights without her. And to make matters worse, they had achieved it seemingly effortlessly. Linda sighed heavily. I'm glad you and your sister have been so successful, sweetheart. And although I'm afraid to ask, how is Josh doing? Is my boy okay? Stacy took a deep breath and checked the clock on the night table to determine how much time she had, knowing that the limo with Josh and Fauna would be arriving soon. She didn't want to move on to the next topic and not have time to finish. She noted that she probably had plenty of time. Well, Mom, I'm surprised to have to admit that Josh has turned his life around. As you know, he was pretty wild before you left and continued to drink and hang out with his friends after you left. He even got worse for a while. Eventually, Dad got at his throat and demanded that he quit partying and at least get a job or go back to school. Josh would tell him where to go, so Dad eventually kicked him out and told him not to come back until he found a job. Dad even had to call the police a couple times to get him out of the house. What? Your asshole father kicked my son out of the house. How dare he do that? I'll have Frank contact a lawyer and sue the creep, Linda muttered. Good luck with that, Mom, Stacy said with a shake of her head. She knew that her mother had always considered Josh her favorite and allowed him everything. She also knew that Linda supported his antics, slipping him money when he asked for it. He was actually very lucky that he had never been arrested or gotten into serious trouble. That was a year and a half ago, Mom, and since then Josh and Dad have pretty much reconciled. For a while, Josh made money off his friends, but even they got tired of supporting his lazy ass and they left him. He lived on the streets for a while and finally decided he didn't like life there, especially when he saw that the three of us were doing well. He came to Daddy, apologized, and wanted to come home. Dad continued his get-a-job-first attitude, and Josh got a job working on the roof. He eventually moved home, but Dad made him pay his own rent to show him what being an adult was all about. It was funny to listen to him moan about working hard, having to pay for food, rent, and a car, and then not having any money. His father always told him that this is the real world, and you have to get used to it. It went on like that for about a year until Fauna came along. Don't tell me your father has another girlfriend. Who's Fauna? Stacy laughed. No, Mom, Fauna is Dad's personal assistant. She's very smart and doesn't put up with anyone's crap. Dad always calls her his boss. She's only 22 years old, but she already knows her stuff. She met Daddy at a conference he was working at in Minneapolis. She walked up to him, shook his hand, and told him that if he wanted to be a real success, he needed to hire her to handle his travel arrangements, book his tickets, and manage his expenses. She then handed him her resume and told him to call her when he was ready to get serious about his career. Dad hired her right away. She lives with us, and Dad jokes that he has his own harem. She was really instrumental in helping Dad get his career started. She's like my own big sister, and we all love her. She's a real Norwegian cutie. About 5'7" tall, with short blonde hair and blue eyes. Josh took one look at her and fell in love. She told Josh that she wouldn't date anyone who wasn't going somewhere in life, and suddenly Josh was motivated. Mom, Josh joined the Air Force 4 months ago and will soon be going to Monterey, California to language school where he will be learning Russian. What? Air Force? Language school? Russian! Holy shit! Linda gasped. This was too much. Stacy, chuckling at her mother's reaction, continued. Wild, huh? He's at Lackland Air Force Base right now, waiting for his security clearance to be completed. And Daddy asked him to take a leave of absence to come home and attend a party. Fauna has started to treat him softer, but still won't admit they're dating. But we girls can tell she's in love. She's not dating anyone else, and they spend hours on the phone when they can. It's so sweet. Josh is, blown away. He has a plan to finish language school and go to college to get his degree and become an officer. Can you believe it? My crazy brother's an officer. That's too weird. It's weird what love makes you do, isn't it? Smiled Stacy, innocently discussing her brother's future plans. Suddenly, a baritone voice started singing Impossible Dream in the background. Stacy laughed and walked out into the hallway outside her bedroom. Mom, you need to hear this. She held out the phone in the direction of the voice when a series of wolf cries and moans from very feminine voices erupted. Rachel shouted with a chuckle in her voice. Daddy! Sing my favorite song, Far, Far Away. On second thought, just sing Far, Far Away. Janice joined in. Don't quit your job! Stacy continued. Daddy, why don't you hit the road? I think the bus leaves in 10 minutes. Amidst the girls' laughter, Ed could be heard saying, You girls are killing me! I get no respect. My own family, that's it. You're all off my Christmas list. The laughter was followed by a female chorus of, We love you, Daddy, and a male promise that they were now back on the Christmas list. Stacy spoke again, laughing. He's so funny. He always sings when he's happy or nervous, and we always get him for it. It's our little game. All Linda could say was, Oh. It was obvious that her family was moving on without her. Subconsciously, she hoped they were still hurting because they had lost her. Then she fell silent. Stacy picked up the conversation and continued her narration. Dad doesn't know he's the guest of honor tonight, but he's a little nervous because he and Jack McTaggart are going to play a couple of guitar duets with the band. You know Dad and his bluesy guitar stuff. After he and Jack became buddies, they both discovered they love playing guitar and get together almost every week to practice and have a few beers. They joke that they're going to be rock stars. They're actually pretty good, but they just do it for fun. Tonight is their first public performance, and it should be fun. Can you imagine Daddy in a tuxedo playing guitar on stage? Stacy giggled as she envisioned the picture. Linda was amazed again. Your dad and John McTaggart are friends? The same John McTaggart? How did that happen? Stacy smiled to herself. She knew that her mother thought highly of the McTaggarts because of their wealth and power. She also knew that her mother had always wanted to meet the McTaggarts, and so her father and Jack McTaggart had not only met, but were practically best buddies. Stacy was also pleased that he insisted that everyone in the family call him Jack, rather than the official Mr. McTaggart. He was quite a nice man who had been instrumental in launching Ed's writing career. Yes, Mom. John, or Jack as his close friends call him, McTaggart? It all started when Dad wrote a couple articles on how to survive and rebuild your life after a traumatic event like losing everything when your cheating wife leaves you and runs off with her boyfriend. Dad was thrilled when several small magazines bought the articles for publication. Jack read the articles, contacted Dad, and asked him to be a motivational speaker at one of McTaggart's staff meetings. We thought Dad was going to have a heart attack. He prepared a lecture from his articles and spoke at the meeting. The speech went well, and Jack hired Dad again to speak at the annual stockholders meeting. Dad began to get offers to speak at other board-represented company meetings, and from that point on, things went from bad to worse. Dad began to write more and more, his articles were picked up by more prominent magazines, and soon he quit his job to devote all of his time to writing and speaking. Jack continued to introduce Dad to important people. They started socializing and soon discovered that they both loved playing blues and rock guitar. They've remained buddies ever since. Stacy paused for a long moment to give her mother time to digest what had happened. After all, it had been an amazing turn of events. Is your father a writer now? An author? A published writer? Your father, my ex-husband, is a writer? Linda tried to get her head around the far-fetched concept of her former loser becoming successful. She secretly hoped it didn't pay so well. From the main floor of the house came the sounds of activity. People arriving, noisy conversations, and light laughter. A strong male voice was heard as well as a softer female voice. Stacy saw Janice leave Rachel's room and head toward the stairs leading to the main floor. It wasn't hard to guess that she was heading downstairs to act as hostess for the new arrivals. Stacy suddenly remembered something she had forgotten to do tonight. Mom, I'll have to leave soon. Jack and Mona McTaggart are here with photographers to take pictures for the society page of the newspaper and the picture book they publish and sell every year about the magical time people had at the Summerfest. It makes me want to vomit, but I think the book raises a lot of money for charity and makes us participants feel warm and good. Stacy said this with a dose of sarcasm because she really did find it excessive and self-indulgent. Nevertheless, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride that her father's accomplishments had suddenly elevated their family to such a lofty place where others, especially her wayward mother, began to treat them with respect. Linda rushed to defend the practice. Oh, Stacy, don't take this so lightly. It's an honor and a privilege to be in this book and to know that you participated in a historic event. You should be absolutely thrilled to be in attendance. Since you'll be sitting at the head table, your photos will be on almost every page. I have secretly bought one of these books almost every year, and this year I will be able to point to the pictures of Josh, you, and Rachel and say, look at these special people. These are my kids. I'm actually very jealous, but also very proud. I will definitely be ordering a few copies of the book as soon as they come out. Okay, Mom. Oh. Hi. Dad's going to New York for Labor Day weekend, and Rachel, Janice, Fauna, and I were going to go with him. Maybe we can get together then. I'd love to see you, and I'm sure I can talk Rachel into coming too, but you should know that she's still mad at you for leaving. Maybe we can take Janice with us so you can meet her. Also, do you want to see Daddy? Oh, honey, that's a terrific idea. Yeah, let's do something about it. I definitely want to see you and Rach, but your dad and his girlfriend, I'm not sure that's a good idea. Too much pain on both sides, I'm sure. I'd like you to meet Frank, though. After all, he's your stepfather now. Stacy stuck her finger in her wide-open mouth with her tongue out, mimicking gagging, and said, No, Mom. I still have nightmares about you and Frank doing nasty things, so I can only meet Frank and you if Daddy and Janice are there. I think that would be fair. We'll see what happens, Stacy, but let's not upset the overall goal, which is for us to see each other. I'm already looking forward to seeing you and Rach again, so let's focus on that. Coincidentally, Frank is using his influence to get us tickets to the Meet the Author Day that the New York Literary Guild is throwing this weekend. I'm going to insist that he get tickets for all of us. It should be a very prestigious event. Several writers will be signing books, meeting and greeting. Frank is very excited. David Volches has promised to be there and Frank is excited to meet him. David is an aspiring writer and Frank says his first book is great. I know that the coast tend to find out about the latest trends and events sooner than the Midwest, but have you by any chance heard of David? Stacy caught the somewhat condescending tone in her mother's words and couldn't help but laugh, deciding to return the favor. Yes, Mom. I have heard of David Volches. Moreover, I have met him on more than one occasion. Yes, I agree that his work is marvelous. I read his book some time ago and found it rather, how shall I put it, provocative. Have you read his book, Mom? Linda was taken aback by Stacy's statement, but decided not to react. No, I can't say that I am. I'm not much of a fan of that kind of reading, but Frank is definitely a fan. Stacy was already laughing and almost said something about the book not having enough pictures for her mom's literary tastes, but held back. Mom, do you have a hardcover or soft cover of David's book available? Linda looked around and then stepped into Frank's office. Yes. I have a hardcover copy of it right here on Frank's desk. Why do you ask? Mom, look at the back inside cover and tell me what you see. There's a picture of the author here. Oh my God. It's Ed. Oh my God. It's a picture I took of your father 7 or 8 years ago. Oh my God. How can this be? That can't be David Volches. Your father is not David Volches. Please tell me this is some kind of mistake. Stacy was still laughing and trying not to choke as the full effect of the irony continued to bombard her thoughts. You can't help it, Mom. Yes, and yes, David Volches is actually Edward J. Mercer. When Dad decided to write a novel, he wanted to separate his writing goals for a number of reasons, so he came up with a pen name and released his first novel under the name David Volches. That's just really funny. Your husband's favorite author is your ex-husband. This is just hilarious. It's too good. They should make a movie. I can't believe it. No one could come up with this shit. Oh man, it's too funny. Linda sat sullenly and finally said quietly, Shit. Stacy had to go, so she said, still laughing. I have to go, Mom. I'll send you my email address and you send me yours and we'll make plans for Labor Day weekend. I'm so glad you called and I really want to see you again. I love you, Mom. It's still too funny. Linda simply suggested, Tell your brother and sister hello and give them my number so they can call me when they get a chance. I love you too, Stacy. Stacy walked downstairs, still laughing at the implications of the recent turn of events, and got ready to take pictures for the socialites. She knew she would have no trouble smiling, but only she would know why, for now. Linda sat in deep thought for a long time and concluded that Karma was indeed a vindictive bitch. She was still talking to Stacy when Frank almost ran into the room. Linda, you're not going to believe this. I just got a postcard from David Volches. I wrote to him, telling him how much I enjoyed his book and how much I was looking forward to seeing him in September. And he wrote me back, in his own handwriting, Dear Frank, you have no idea how glad I am that you read and enjoyed my first novel. Although you may not know it, you have had a very positive impact on my life and career. I don't know if I will ever be able to thank you fully, so I look forward to thanking you in person. You have taken a huge weight off my shoulders and provided a much-needed spark in my growth as a person and a writer. I am deeply indebted to you. Best wishes? David Volches. Frank continued to babble about his rapturous joy, telling me that he must have met David once before. His picture seemed familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen him. Now he couldn't wait to meet him and hoped to become good friends with his new favorite author. Linda became more and more sullen and depressed as Frank's words faded deeper and deeper from her mind. Finally, in a hoarse, dry voice, she said quietly, Shut up, Frank. Just shut up.